I can't wait to go to the cafe and just like unzip my bag and like I'm moving in. Today I start a Colossus journey. This has been sitting on my TBR shelf for like 6 months now. There were several times I'd go to pick it up and I would pick it up and it was just, it's so heavy. I mean, it's just a girthy boy. It's just a thick boy. It's very daunting. It is so daunting to look at. And I'm trying not to be embarrassed when I say that this will definitely be the biggest book I've ever read. 200,000 words? Yeah, piece of cake, do it all the time. This would give one neck cramps. I'm trying to keep my expectations in check. I've heard a lot of fairly mixed things about this, mostly people saying that it was really overhyped. Book Talk, you know, tends to do that. But overall, I've had this recommended to me so many times by people that I trust their opinions. So I am excited. So more or less, I'm here to tell you that I'm making this video basically to make myself read this. Let's just start reading. Yeah, okay, let's do it. Okay, we have reached 200 pages, which, you know, in a normal book for me would be like halfway. If I were to give my reaction to the first 200 pages with an expression, with a high fantasy like this, obviously there's a lot of world building and some info dumping in the first 100 pages, which can make it feel really cumbersome. But now that the ball is rolling, some significant events have happened, I feel a lot more invested and it is becoming a lot more fun to return to it. It feels less and less like work. Less and less like I am forcing myself to get through this. So this book is divided into 4 different POV characters. It's working really well right now. Because usually with stories that have different POVs, I tend to like clasp on to one of them. So every time that we're on somebody else's POV, it's like kind of annoying. It's like I don't care about them, go back to the other person. But what's happening with these 4 characters, I'm actually like really invested in all of their stories. And I feel like they're going to converge really nicely at one point. Obviously, the selling point for me with this book was the queer romance. But it is becoming apparent to me, 200 pages in, that romance is not what is important in this story, which is okay. As long as it happens, as long as I get it. I feel like I am at maximum capacity. I am filled to the brim with names. Like, I'm holding on, like I'm tracking, it tracks, but I feel like I can't handle much more when it comes to characters and places and whose role is what. I'm really enjoying the world. There's so much subtext happening because 3 of the 4 of these characters are in places they don't agree with. They're in parts of the world that they feel like they don't belong in right now. And so that makes for very interesting internal conflict because they're saying things that they feel kind of forced to have to say, but their internal dialogue is like real cynical. So that's been juicy. I really like how the religion kind of sparks the politics. There feels like a good balance between like character politics and religion and all of the conflict between all of those things. I'm kind of holding my breath still, but at this moment in time, I am enjoying myself. I really hope that that doesn't change. Finally got just a hint, just a touch of romance, and it was so sweet. It was so worth it.
And now I definitely have a favorite POV character. This is definitely like the first book that I have like gone back to the map several times. I really enjoy having the visual of the world and the landscape and where all the different characters are in relation to each other. Things got to a point yesterday where I sat down at my desk and I'm not sure where the day went. I think I read 200 pages yesterday, against my will. Yeah, at this point in time, like 5 stars. But there's still like half of the book to go, so anything terrible could happen. I literally got to part 3 yesterday and told myself to stop so that I could, talk about it. And that didn't happen. I did not stop. We finally got some good romance. I say that, but in the 430 pages that I've read, the romance in total probably comprises like 2 pages. It has not been a lot, but it is now like the central conflict for one of the POV characters. So I'm hoping that the romance will continue. I do not want to be wrong about that. But it felt earned. There was a lot of really good lead up, breadcrumbs, sprinkles. There's one scene in particular of just, some light flirtation that I just ate up. I think I went back and reread that paragraph like 5 times. Like it was just, gay. I mean, you could have 2 girl characters literally look at each other across the room and I would read that 5 times. My bar is not very high. 3 out of 4 of our POV characters are in vastly different places than when they started. I meant that physically, but obviously also emotionally. But physically, we have traveled all over this world, and every time we get to go to a new place, I am really excited. We've been on the sea, we've been in the desert, we've been in ashy ruins. It's the world is fleshing out really nicely in my head, and I love that. The geography, I finally have the geography down pat. I don't have to go back to the map anymore. Sometimes I do, but when the characters talk about a place, I know where it is. I am properly peeved though, because literally in sitting down to do this, I discovered that there is a fucking glossary that would have come in handy so many times. There was literally one character, a very minor character, that we ran into for a second time. I had to go back 100 pages and scour those pages because I wanted to make sure I had the right character in my head. So that just would have been nice to know. If you decide to read this book because of the amazing job that I'm doing, just let it be known. This is at your disposal. Don't be like me. Be better. I'm really badly creasing the spine. I've been reading a lot on my desk, so it's looking pretty rough. But you know what? These scars, these babies, they were earned. Which I also just googled. A Day of Fallen Night is 880 pages, and this one is 804. But you know what? That doesn't scare me anymore. I think my arms are toned from holding this. I've been looking at 400-page books so differently now. The gayest shit is happening right now. Oh my gosh. You guys, I had to stop mid-chapter. Just to savor things a little bit longer. I did not expect such romance, but it has happened. What the fuck? I'm terrified that things are going to fall apart. You know how a character says the sweetest line, and then you're oh my gosh, you're gonna die, aren't you? Man, spending 800 pages in a story. I really don't want it to end. I really don't want it to be over. This has been such an amazing journey. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to return to the chapter of romance.
It's day 2, and I am 600 pages in. Just kidding. I don't want to think about how many days it's been, because I go through the motions of reading, where there will be one day I read like 10 pages, and the next day I read like 70. So when I say that I've been reading this book for like more than 3 weeks, it hurts a little bit. But we are 200 pages away from the end. Things are f***ing intense. Oh my gosh. I have had my first little qualms with this book. Just little things. There have been a couple puzzles that we've needed to solve in order to, save the world. And most of them feel like they just happen a little too easily. And like the characters are equipped to figure them out, but we as the audience are not, so it's not as satisfying for us. But like when the characters are like, yes, I figured it out, it's just kind of like, okay, cool. Now we can move on. But overall, like there have been, it's been kind of insane. There have been 2 moments in this book that I have stopped and I have had to put it down because it was just too much. I was too invested and I was too nervous that things were going to be terrible. I mean, we got our first like real romance scene. It got a little spicy. It got just like 1 spice. 1 out of 5 spice. It was honestly more than I thought there was going to be. But you guys, it was one scene in particular. The lead up, it was before the scene. So if you know what I'm talking about. I was literally like a giggling mess. I was laying in my bed. It was like 2 a.m. and I'm reading this. And I'm like... And that doesn't happen to me a lot. So that's what 800 pages will do to a woman, I guess. But the world is about to end. I am extremely stressed. It's weird because the first half of this book really takes its time and you are in this world and you're with these characters and it feels like there's breathing room. You're breathing with them, you're living with them. And then in the second half of this book, it feels like all of the action is happening. And so I feel like I'm really missing out on living with these characters and being in these moments with them. Because certain things have happened and it feels a little, it wasn't satisfying because I didn't feel like I was there with them. So there are moments that I understand what it was trying to do, but it feels like it falls just a little short of doing it. And I hate that. But that doesn't take away from like my overall enjoyment of the story and what's happening. We got some revelations. We had some little plot twists. Some of them were much more impactful than others. But my word, this romance. I feel like I'm hyping it up to you now. Like it's not a heavy part of the story. It's not. But it is present, and I do love it. It is carrying me forward right now. Literally, I stopped right before part 5. It says, "Here be dragons," and I fear death. Of everything. I fear the death of everything. Was going to go to this new cafe to read, but they're closed unexpectedly, so popping in to one of my favorite bars. I was just sitting like this. Reading is dangerous, kids. Be careful. I have 100 pages left, and I'm incredibly nervous. This is a standalone book, and I am aware of that fact. There is not a sequel. There is so much that is left that has to happen, and it doesn't feel like enough. "50 pages left.
So I feel this is going to be brutal and brief. And I'm trembling. Okay. That took me just about a month exactly to go through. Granted, I am no speedy reader. I took my time with it. I'm not unsatisfied. I'm sad. I'm sad that I spent a month in this world and it's over now. But I feel like that's typical when you end any story, any good book. Some things happened in the end. Just once again, certain things felt just a little too easy, a little handed to the characters. But yeah, there were just some moments that I wish I had a little bit more of. I'm curious as to why this is a standalone book, if there is like a proper reason. Because maybe this would have been amazing, drawn out a little bit more into a series. I'm definitely going to order the prequel. World building, was solid. Damn. I had a really good time. I was kind of right in being nervous about it wrapping up that fast. I wish I had had just a little bit more of the after the fact, How are you gonna spend the rest of your life? I just want more. I'm just selfish. I'm sorry. Yeah, that was good. Let's talk about it. Let's start with the things that I loved. I feel that Samantha Shannon really knew the world in which she was writing and who the characters were. And it feels like she really understood the backstory to this world and to all the characters and how that would play into the future going forward. The romance, obviously, is a highlight for me. Again, there wasn't a super big amount of it. I definitely would not call this a romantasy by any means. But there was enough in here to keep me satiated. And there was more than one gay couple as well. There were quite the cast of queer characters. And being queer in this world comes off as something that isn't frowned upon. No one really turned their nose up at it. The only time anyone really said anything was if you were of a different class than someone else. So we love that. I love the religion and how it came about. So just the general history that is weaved throughout these lands, feels so rich and fleshed out, and she really knew what she was working with. The history was very palpable. The characters felt really strong. There is some amazing character growth. I love how Sovereign changes a little bit throughout the story. Samantha Shannon definitely does a good job of the court life and politics and the drama that surrounds this kind of world. And that's not typically something that I get super invested in, but I was in this book. All of the different parts of the world and the respective kingdoms, I felt that I understood them. I felt that I understood where they were coming from and the conflicts that they had with each other. And I think that made for a really delightful world to be in, because all of these characters are from different parts of this world. And so when they come together, they're all very different and they have conflicts. But I don't stand with just one of them. I stand on all of their sides. And that is a lovely feeling. I'm on everyone's side and I want them all to win. They come together as a collective to defeat evil. Yeah, the romance was definitely my favorite thing. But I was not without my minor issues. A lot of the big moments and the big reveals, they kind of feel like they're just told to you, like in monologues. And the events nearing the end of the story were pretty predictable. There was not that one thing though, not that who slept with what and did what. You know what I'm talking about. What? That was surprising. That was a little jaw-dropping. It explained a lot. But what? But again, all of that was even revealed to you in a monologue. It was told to you. I wasn't a huge fan of that. But I will say, the thing that I despise the most in any kind of storytelling is feeling like I am being spoon-fed. I loathe that feeling. I don't ever want to feel stupid as an audience member. And that tends to happen even more when you are told things instead of shown things. But that never happened in this book, even though we were told a lot of revelations. I never felt like I was being spoon-fed. I never felt stupid. So I will defend it on that front. I kind of wish, there are deaths in here. So the stakes are high. I was nervous. Although I kind of wish, and you guys are gonna throw me out the window for this, I kind of wish there had been more death. And I think that's just because it would have felt like it matched the stakes. That this was dangerous. It's a dangerous world and it's a dangerous mission and there's a war and like dragons and like I would have been willing to let go of one or two of them. You know? Like please don't hate me for saying that. I love Nicholas. His character feels very understandable because of his backstory and kind of his ghosts from his past. And I feel like he works really well as a great character, and I understand why he is the way he is and why he's doing what he's doing. But I kind of thought I saw how things were going to go, and I kind of wish that they had gone that way. I will say, the big old baddie, I was intimidated by him, and I liked him as a character. I think where my issue is, a lot of things felt like they happened without much of a fight. Like, I feel like all these characters do a great job of fearing their adversaries enough to get you fearing them. But when they show up, they go down really easy. The Lady of the Woods, I wanted so badly to love this character. She had such potential to be terrifying. And in certain scenes, she was. But in the end, again, predictable. The bad guys don't win a lot. And I think maybe they should have won a little bit more. You know what does win? Love wins. Love wins every freaking time. I've never been big into annotating, but I think this would have been a great one to annotate, especially because of all the POV characters. I think that would have been very interesting visually. I would love to revisit this. Not sometime soon, but I would love to revisit this, and I think I will annotate it when I do that. I am definitely ordering the prequel, but I have to wait another month because it comes out in a paperback, and I refuse to have one paperback and one hardback, so I must wait. It is rated so well on Goodreads. I think it was really overhyped for a lot of people. It wasn't for me, and I think that may be a key factor in why I enjoyed it so much, was because I really didn't have a lot of expectations. And even though I have certain qualms and issues, it really doesn't take away from my overall. I really enjoyed this. I have no regrets, and I do not feel like I wasted any time reading this 800-page book. And if you have any desire to read this at all, I really think that you should. Out of 5 stars, I think I would rate this. I wish more websites did half stars. It's hard because this has been my favorite sapphic fantasy that I have read. The Counselor I read a few years ago, and it left a lot to be desired. I did love Crier's War, that duology, but it's geared a little bit more for a YA audience. And this fed the adult needs that I had as far as fantasy goes. So this has been my favorite sapphic fantasy. And I think for that reason, I'm leaning more towards 5 stars. But as a book in general, I think it would be 4 out of 5. I think it's a 4-star book for me. But I really wish it could be 4.5. I have heard some people say that the prequel is even better than this one. So here's to hoping. And it's still gay. It better be. If you have sapphic fantasy reads that you think I would love, please, I will grovel to you. Tell me. This was so fun and very enjoyable and very gay. So
Thank you very much for watching. I'll be returning with the next one, and I hope you return with me. I'm gonna go have a gay old time.